We can hear you, Tim.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Well, thank you for joining us. In today's session, we will be discussing the AMEVision, and specifically the web interface that can be used for visualizing the WDG-V and its operations to enable calibration and set parameters. So let's get started. Now, as I mentioned, the purpose of this live demo is to talk about the setup of this web interface. Again, this will be posted online on YouTube as a reference for you. So it'll give you somewhat of a walkthrough on how to set up that web interface software, and also to share some relevant screenshots from an internet browser, basically how that can work within any type of plant internet system. The agenda will be very simple. We'll talk about the background of the AMEVision and WDG-V communications. We'll talk about the setup, how to set up that TCP/IP connection, and then share some relevant views of that WDG-V web interface. At any time, feel free to submit your questions, and we'll have time at the end to discuss. Just to start off, as you might imagine, the requirements for setting up the web interface software are pretty straightforward, but I want to make sure that you have those key elements from the beginning. So you need a AMEVision, you need a crossover internet cable, and you need a crossover Ethernet cable and a WDG-V. That's kind of like the bare minimum as far as setting this up. And in order to establish the connection, you actually want to start with your Windows control panel. Go to the network and internet setting. Go to the network and sharing center, and from there you're going to look for the change adapter settings. And so basically, we want to start to get in position to actually set the IP address on your server, so that you're going to look for. So we're going to first set up that IP address, and this is how you do that. So as you keep going on the network adapter Ethernet, click on the properties, and then select Internet Protocol version 4 for TCP/IP, and then click properties. And you'll see these windows along the way. Again, this is kind of like a reference for you for setting it up yourself. Now from there, you want to select the use of an IP address, and so you want to set the IP address that you're going to match on the AMEVision. So it's important to make sure that you specify which IP address you want to use, what subnet mask you want to use, what default gateway you want to do, which one you want to use, and make sure you at least have some starting point for connecting to the AMEVision. We're going to eventually use this to match the AMEVision in a future slide. And from there, you can set this up, and then also select the DNS server addresses and leave it blank as you see here, and close network adapter properties. So this is the first thing that you got to do to set up on your computer for establishing this TCP/IP connection. Now, once you have this IP address, make sure you have it recorded somewhere, because the next step is to match that IP address with your AMEVision. And so go to the AMEVision, go to the main menu, navigate to the communications tab, and look for the TCP/IP configuration. And there, this is where you physically match, the IP address, the subnet mask, the gateway, with what we just did on your computer. And this can be done from a laptop. This can be done, you can set it up on your computer, and then also hook it right up to your AMEVision. And so from here, the one thing that I've noticed is sometimes in the past you might need to change this last digit for the gateway IP, but otherwise this is how you would set up the AMEVision. And from there, you're able to access the WDG-V, plugging right into the AMEVision, but you're able to access the WDG-V live through a web browser. And so this is actually a different IP address. The instructions were written at one time, and this demonstration was performed a little bit later. But when you get it all set up, you open up Internet Explorer, Google Chrome, you'll actually be able to see and just type in that IP address, and it will automatically work through the communication software of the AMEVision to provide you with this home screen for the WDG-V. From here, you have a lot of different options, and this is specific, but there's a lot of things you can see here as you can note. You can see the oxygen concentration, the combustibles concentration, methane concentration. If you had multiple sensors, you could actually, multiple sensors connected to the AMEVision, you'd be able to scroll through and select other AMEVision, other WDG-V, other WDG-Vs to view. You can view cell temperature, box temperature. So you pretty much have everything that you would see in the AMEVision right at your laptop or desktop computer. So that's part of the value of having this TCP/IP connection. Now from here, you can go to sensor diagnostics. And these are some of the options that you see within sensor diagnostics. So you can control diagnostics, cell diagnostics. You can inject gas, look at alarm history. But when you look at the sensor diagnostics, you can see cell temperature, box temperature, millivolts, and box RTD temperature resistance. So this is a very quick view of your sensor diagnostics. And then if you want to look at sensor configuration, you can also select combustibles, methane, flow within your configurations tab. And you can also configure analog outputs and process temperature, system time, alarm configuration. A lot can be done right within the screen here as well. And then as a final kind of preview, you can also initiate calibration. Now, if you had the analyzer locked with a password, you would have to unlock it with the password first before you do this. But you could initiate a calibration from your computer as well. So there's also that capability. So I have a whole bunch of other screenshots if anybody is interested, but this was just a brief overview of the AMEVision web interface that connects to the WDG-V. So I'll open it up to questions because I have a lot that I can share, and I'm happy to share some additional screens. In the meantime, I'll kind of open up that. So here's some additional screens. So are there any questions in the chat?
Hey, Tim, while we're just waiting for any questions to come through, I just ask maybe a couple to get started. Just in terms of your experience working with users, in terms of setting up the initial setup of the AMEVision to the WDG-V, what's the most common issue you've seen where a user has difficulty or maybe misses a step in terms of the setup of the analyzer to the AMEVision itself that user should be aware of and make sure they check or follow a certain procedure?
Well, I kind of define the procedure, but that's partly it's that gateway IP, making sure that you have like the last digit a little bit different, but everything else the same. Because I've seen in the past that it hasn't worked without the gateway IPs being a little bit different. Other than that, it is very important to use a crossover Ethernet cable. That's what allows you to talk to the AMEVision directly. So just making sure you have the right cables set up. And if you have a password associated with the WDG-V, making sure that you have the password so that you can unlock it for calibrating the unit. Those would be some things. Are there anything else that kind of comes to mind, John?
No, that's good, Tim.
Yeah.
And then maybe you were showing earlier, or maybe it's on this screen actually, some of the performance and work that you can do via the AMEVision on the WDG-V. You just mentioned calibration. I'm guessing that's one of the more common procedures that users would use the AMEVision for with the WDG-V. I'm wondering maybe if you could just walk through perhaps that area or that setup. If you have any of that information in your backup slides, maybe just talk through that step.
Sure. Yeah. So calibration. Yeah. Calibration. You obviously want to set your. This is the calibration screen. I have a whole bunch of screenshots just to share for quick, for quick discussion. But for calibration, you can set your select between, oxygen, span gas. This is obviously for oxygen and combustibles measurement. But you can set your oxygen value, span gas, set your zero gas, and your combustibles gas. And what it'll do is that, and if you had methane, you can set your methane. And what it'll do is it'll allow you to it'll cycle through one at a time. So it'll cycle through the span gas, kind of give you an estimate for how much time might be remaining. And it does that for, it does it for each cycle. And then if there's an issue, it'll tell you that there's an issue. But otherwise, you can also, in the same setting, you can also set up auto calibration, duration time, and check the calibration gas value. So any questions there, John?
No, that's good, Tim.
Yeah, there's a lot of flexibility and capability within this web interface software.
Okay, I don't see any other questions in the chat, Tim. I don't know if you have any closing comments or remarks you want to make.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. Again, this live demonstration is to be a resource to you. That's why we're planning to post it online. Feel free to reach out to us, to me directly, or to amatechpi.com for any questions. And we hope this is a resource to you. Thank you.